I'm showing you guys the insult dueling pirate battles in the game because they are sort of relevant to this topic of the problem with trash talk now is it's become stupid. This was a game that was considered incredibly family friendly. This was completely appropriate content for children back in the day. You start off by saying, "My name is Guybrush Threepwood, prepare to die."
Back in the halcyon days of the 1980s, when all people had to worry about was total annihilation via widespread nuclear war, an American called Dennis Hope made international news when he revealed that after exploiting a loophole in the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, he had become the sole owner of the nearest celestial neighbor, the Moon. Since then, Hope has made a small fortune selling off pieces of the satellite's surface. While the media has mostly painted Hope as a harmless eccentric, if you study his story a little more closely, as we're wont to do, you'll see that Hope is actually a masterful entrepreneur, and almost every aspect of his story is a carefully crafted falsehood or half-truth that nonetheless has seen the man himself earn millions selling nothing more than pieces of paper.
Australian scientists have uncovered new details regarding human history. That means me and you and Doc and everybody else. Research is now suggesting that our DNA is way more complex than we previously thought it was. And you know what the culprit is? Our long history of breeding with different species.
This has been claimed by WME. This has been claimed by WME. This has been claimed. This has been claimed. This has been claimed. This has been claimed. And this went on for about 2 hours. 2 hours of just email. And sure enough, I went onto my Creator Studio, which is the platform that YouTubers use to kind of check what's going on and everything. And practically my entire channel, years worth of videos, hundreds of them, had been claimed by a studio for a song. A song that played for 9 seconds at the end of, at the time, nearly every video. Doesn't happen anymore for obvious reasons. At the time, 9 seconds.
There are many theories surrounding the mysterious disappearance of the Indus people from Mohenjo-Daro. In 1977, British researcher David Davenport discovered that part of the archaeological site showed evidence of having been destroyed by an extremely powerful explosion.
Okay, we already know that there are water-bearing minerals within the Earth's mantle that are essentially deconstructed water. But this time, when we say that there are giant reservoirs of water hiding deep under the ocean, we mean fresh water, as you and I would recognize it, that we could drink, like water. About 2,800 cubic kilometers of it. Just to emphasize how freaking big that is, that's enough to fill over 1 billion Olympic swimming pools. Or to put it another way, it stretches not only the length of New Jersey's coastline, but also that of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and most of New York.
Wait, what? What was that?
I'm taking this.
Okay, how are you gonna pay for that?
Why would I pay for something I already own?
You don't own that, we own that. You need to buy that.
We both just saw what happened, right?
Yeah, you were just kind of really inappropriate with that mouse box.
Is this enough money? I will last it 2 fucking days! Take it!
For the last 2 or 3 weeks, this is, I'm expecting for the next 4 weeks, this is how we make our money, okay? So, any crappy story that comes out about Wolfenstein, you better check in, man, because we're going to be covering that shit.
And then you fight with weapons, and then you insult people with things like, I'll show you the most quote-unquote problematic ones. Where's the ape one? If your brother's like you, better to marry a pig. Like, that's like, ouch. See, that's one thing the Swordmaster throws at you, which is a woman of color, for the record. There's others. I've spoken with apes more polite than you. That's problematic by today's terms. But he can counter with that. I'm glad to hear you attended your family reunion. Could you imagine if you threw that at the Swordsmaster, a woman of color?
I looked out the window, saw the moon, and thought, hey, there's a load of property. Hope ran to his local library. For those unfamiliar, it's a sort of place where they used to store the partial contents of the future internet on the bodies of deceased trees to research who, if anyone, owns the Earth satellite. In that house of plant death, he discovered that according to the 1967 Outer Space Treaty signed by all spacefaring nations at the time, as well as over 100 others, no country can claim sovereignty over any such celestial body. Hope's interpretation of this was that while the treaty forbade countries and governments from staking a claim to the moon, it said nothing about an individual doing so. Towards this end, he filed a claim for ownership of the moon with, to quote him, his local US governmental office for claim registries. Supposedly, after some pushing and prodding, a supervisor at the office signed off on his claim, which made him the sole owner of the moon. As a courtesy, Hope then wrote a letter to the United Nations and the Russian government telling them about the claim he was granted by the US government and asking if they wished to challenge it. After no one responded, he began selling off plots of land on the moon for about $20 an acre, or slightly more if you wished also to purchase the mineral rights for your particular lunar plot.
No, by the rules of the street, I now own this.
Okay, that's not a thing.
Come on, mate. Let's not sit here and pretend like there aren't some very strict rules of the street that everyone follows.
Well, okay, like what?
Finders keepers, for one. The biggest one, the most famous one. The 5-second rule for food on the ground. Step on a crack, you marry a rat, obviously. Pinky promises, a blood pact, and you lick it, you keep it.
According to new research, present-day humans are a result of archaic interbreeding. Scientists say Homo sapiens reproduced with 4 other extinct hominin species some 50,000 years ago.
Let me explain to you about those 9 seconds of music. First off, the music I was using, I had direct permission from the artist of that song, the person that created that music. I have spoken to, he's an excellent person, incredibly talented. I have expressed written permission from the artist to use that music in the videos. Express written permission. You ever watch a baseball game? You are not allowed to use this phone without express written permission from Major League Baseball. Yeah, I had that. And yet, I still got claim.
Scientists believe the water's probably been there for a pretty long time. When everything was frozen in the last ice age, the sea levels were lower, so what is now this ocean floor was actually exposed. And when the glaciers melted, freshwater melt-off formed watersheds on the exposed ocean floor sediments, eventually getting trapped there in huge pockets as sea levels rose again. The water's origin story may mean that aquifers like this could provide us with clues about the glaciers and sea levels of the past. But the team also believes that these undersea aquifers are being supplied with new freshwater from subterranean systems.
Is this enough money?
So obviously this game is a huge clusterfuck. We all know that. We did a review on it yesterday. I did one on Chill Up as well. Any critic that didn't get an early copy of the game, funnily enough, is being like, hey, this game sucks. Any critic that did get an early copy of the game, different view.
It's strange, isn't it?
It's so strange.
I mean, they must have played content that no one else got to play.
Correct.
That's the only thing I can think of.
And I take a middle ground on this, and people have really misunderstood my point of view. I, said in multiple videos that I think we need to ease off on the extreme trash talk, especially around strangers, and people red pen the shit out of that, which I don't think there's anything especially contentious about that. If you know people, if you know everybody's okay about it, trash talk the crap out of it. That's what they do in the Monkey Island games. Pirates, there's this common code. This is what they do. They insult each other. Everybody signed up for it.
So, this should clear something up for the people not understanding what's happening and how the copyright system is being abused on YouTube. This should make it clearer. What is happening is these companies are directly targeting the creators and the videos that will make them the most money. They don't care that this sample is being used for 8 seconds at all. Not at all. They are actually going out of their way to find the most profitable ways to take advantage of creators. The ones that are most recent and still getting views, and the ones that did the absolute best.
Okay, I'm gonna have to just get my manager. Hey, Rowan!
Look, you can call whoever you want, mate. My DNA is all over this, which makes it mine. You lick it.
Stop right there, please.
You lick it.
You can't just take that. You cannot
You
just take
lick it.
Excuse me.
You keep it. You lick it. You keep it.
The UN estimates that there will be 9.7 billion people on Earth by 2050, and several countries, like India, are already suffering major water shortages. As early as 2025, about half of the world's population may lack as much fresh water as they need, and maybe these newly discovered undersea aquifers could provide us with an unexpected solution.
Hope notes that his current net worth is well over $100 trillion in land alone, owing to his ownership of over 7 trillion acres of extraterrestrial properties. Beyond the land, Hope of course claims to own exclusive mineral rights to, by his estimate, $6 quadrillion of helium-3 on the moon alone. This isn't mentioning the countless deposits of minerals and resources on the other celestial bodies that he claims to own, such as the rich methane deposits hidden inside Uranus.
Researchers out of Australia found that Homo sapiens interbred with 4 other extinct hominin groups, including Neanderthals and Denisovans. Other groups remain unnamed, with traces of their DNA being found in modern populations. The study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences revealed that at least 3 different hominin groups were found in Asia.
So I looked into it a little bit, dug into it, figured out what was claimed. A sample that exists for literally 8 seconds of those 9 seconds could be heard. A sample that the artist making the music didn't own the rights to. A sample that somebody else apparently owned the rights to. 4 companies apparently, by the way, claimed. 4 companies claimed this 9 seconds of this video.
Fuck yeah, Jess, you're slaying it. Whoa, that was so fucking cool, so...
Destroy it! But let's be real for a second. This game is an absolute mess, right? And it just yesterday, Bethesda and Machine Games released their first patch for the game. And surprise, surprise, the very first thing they do, and actually pretty much the only thing this patch does, is patch an exploit that cheat engine was using so that you could get access to infinite in-game coins, okay?
The social justice advocates have claimed that, you know, that level of intellect, the command of, in this case, English, but there's plenty of it in Spanish and French as well, to these trading of barbs. Well, that's classist, and that's, you know, that's racist. And some people even say it's sexist because it's masculinized language.
But if we ever wanted to use this water for drinking, we would have to desalinate it, as it does get a little salty, especially the farther out into the aquifer you go. It is much less salty than ocean water, though, making it less expensive and difficult to desalinate, and potentially giving us some hope when staring down an impending water crisis.
In 2014, mineralogist Dr. Sam Iyengar was able to obtain a piece of fused pottery from Mohenjo Daro and put it through a series of tests.
When I did the elemental analysis, it showed me that the Mohenjo Daro rock contained mostly silicon, aluminum with some calcium and potassium. So my thought was maybe it could be some type of a clay.
Cheat Engine, if you don't know, it's just a free open source sort of like, you know, program that you download. You can download various plugins for it. It allows you to basically cheat in games. Essentially applies mods to games so that you can gain access to different things. If you want infinite lives in a game, cool. If you want to be invulnerable, fine. If you want spawn tanks all the time, go for it. That's what Cheat Engine exactly does. And in the case of Wolfenstein, someone had developed a cheat that allowed you in-game currency, infinite amounts. It wasn't the premium currency, mind you. It wasn't what you bought with real money, those gold bars or whatever. It was the silver coins, which were entirely free.
But if you don't allow that healthy rebellion, as a kid starting at the age of like 8 or 9, starts to self-actualize, starts to identify as an individual, kids never figure out who they are because you got to do things wrong to figure out who you are and what you think is right. And that's the process of learning. And we don't teach kids to learn anymore. We don't teach people to learn anymore. We teach people to avoid mistakes. That's not the same as learning.
He found what remains of the blast. and he believed that this area was the epicenter of something that he believed was an explosion that destroyed a part of the city, and he found the evidence of vitrified pottery bricks that were totally fused, melted, or vitrified.
I start going through and I realize it stops at a certain point. So I'm going through my most recent videos, and sure enough, the only ones that got claimed were the ones on the front page. So within a certain time frame, it appeared to be within 2 months. So the 2 months worth of most recent videos that had used that 8 seconds were the ones being claimed, and then it stopped. But then some were cherry picked, and so I clicked on my most viewed videos tab. So I sorted my videos by most viewed videos, and sure enough, the entire first page of most viewed that had used that song had been claimed.
This is the pattern I got. And you can see some crystalline peaks here, along with an amorphous hump, which usually results from a glassy phase in the rock. The composition is very similar to volcanic rock. The only way the clay can be converted into something which we saw is subjecting the clays to a very, very high temperature. I'm talking 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not something an early civilization can do intentionally. It has to be something supernatural.
There's cause for pause also, though, because new simulations have shown that because of the connection between onshore hydrologic systems and undersea aquifers, pulling water from under the ocean may then pull more water from under the land and could cause the ground to literally sink. So before we can think of these surprisingly massive aquifers as usable resources, a lot of thought and probably a lot of computer modeling is going to need to be put into how we could access them, and if we do, what the effects will be.
The patch that they put out from Bethesda and Machine Games yesterday did almost nothing except like stability fixes.
Oh yeah.
By the way, that didn't really happen. It's still unstable for a lot of people. But they did plug this thing where the cheat engine no longer works now and you cannot get infinite currency.
And I'm very surprised. I mean, I really thought, knowing Bethesda's track record, that they were going to, of course, focus on making the game good, not patch up a monetization loophole that people didn't have to grind this shitty game and have to continue to play this hellish piece of crap. I don't know.
It really is.
Fuck yeah!
By the rules of the street, I own thee.
What would you have me do?
Give it me. Be gone.
Thanks, Ron.
In the Ramayana, it is described that the god Vishnu decides the leader of Lanka, a mortal named Ravana, has grown too powerful. Vishnu takes the human form of Rama and does battle with Ravana, who has become like the gods himself.
It was described as the sun turning into 50 even more brighter suns with this incredible blast. So some people have suggested that perhaps at Mohenjo-Daro some type of a nuclear blast occurred.
You lick it.
Stop right there, please.
You lick
can't
it.
just take that. You cannot just
You lick
Excuse
it.
me.
You keep it.